Do-hyun stared at the massive ships floating in the darkness of space. They were unlike anything he had ever seen. The vessels looked almost alive, with smooth curves and surfaces that seemed to pulse with a faint, dying light. But they were silent. Dead. Hundreds of them drifted together like ghosts in the black void near the Kepler Nebula. "What do you think they are?" Hyunwoo asked, standing beside him at the observation window. The security officer's hand rested on his weapon belt, ready for anything. "I don't know," Do-hyun replied quietly, "but they're beautiful." His sister Yuna, the captain of their research vessel, approached with a concerned look on her face. "We're picking up faint life signs from the central ship. 3 signatures. They're weak," Do-hyun turned to her. "We need to investigate." "It could be dangerous," Yuna warned. "We don't know who built these ships or why they're here." But curiosity won. Do-hyun had spent his entire life studying biological systems and neural technology. These ships called to something deep inside him. Within an hour, their team had docked with the largest vessel and entered through an airlock that opened as if welcoming them. Inside, everything felt wrong and right at the same time. The walls weren't metal. They were organic, like being inside a living creature. Do-hyun touched one wall and felt it was warm. It pulsed under his fingers like a slow heartbeat. They found the 3 aliens in a chamber at the ship's center. They were in glass pods filled with blue liquid. The aliens looked humanoid but were taller and more slender than humans. Their skin was pale with faint patterns of light beneath the surface. All 3 were female. "Should we wake them?" Hyunwoo asked nervously. Before anyone could answer, the pods began to drain on their own. The aliens' eyes opened. They gasped for air and fell to their knees as the glass doors slid open. The tallest one looked up at the humans. Her eyes were large and completely black, but somehow showed deep emotion. She spoke, and to everyone's surprise, a device on her collar translated her words into perfect Korean. "Please," she said, her voice desperate. "Please help us. Our people are dying." Her name was Nari. She was the fleet commander. The other 2 were Isol, who handled weapons, and Mirai, who navigated the ships. They were Villani, they explained, from a world far away. Their entire civilization was falling apart. "Our males died centuries ago," Nari explained as she sat in the ship's command center. Her hands shook as she spoke. "A plague took them all. We survived, but we lost something important. These ships need living minds to control them. They're biomechanical, part machine, part living tissue. But our minds no longer connect properly. The ships have been dying one by one. Without them, we cannot defend our worlds. Our enemies grow closer every day." Do-hyun listened carefully. His mind was already working, analyzing what he heard. "You need someone whose neural patterns can interface with the ship's organic systems." "Yes," Mirai said softly. She seemed gentler than the others. "We've tried everything. Nothing works anymore." Isul the warrior spoke with cold precision. "We will lose everything. Our children, our homes. All of it will burn because we cannot wake our fleet." Do-hyun looked at his sister. Yuna shook her head firmly. "Don't even think about it. We don't know what this would do to you." But Do-hyun was already thinking about it. He had spent years developing systems that bridged organic and synthetic technology. Human brains were incredibly adaptable, if there was even a chance he could help. "Let me try," he said. "Absolutely not," Yuna replied sharply. "You're my brother. I'm not letting you risk your life for aliens we just met." "If I don't, their entire civilization dies," Do-hyun argued. "And if their enemies come here next, we might be in danger too. Let me at least run some tests." The argument lasted for hours. Finally, Yuna agreed to let Do-hyun examine the ship's neural interface system. He spent days studying it, running scans, comparing it to human neurology. The more he learned, the more fascinated he became. "It's incredible," he told Hyunwoo one night. "These ships aren't just controlled by thoughts. They become extensions of the pilot's body, like having 1,000 arms and eyes all at once." "That sounds dangerous," Hyunwoo said. "What if you can't disconnect?" The Villani say the connection is temporary, a few minutes at most for testing. Do-hyun looked at the neural crown that would link him to the ship. It looked like a thin circlet of living metal. I have to try. Nari watched him with dark, hopeful eyes. You would do this for us? You don't even know us. I know what it's like to feel helpless, Do-hyun said. And I know what it's like to want to save people you care about. Finally, Yuna gave her reluctant permission. They would try linking Do-hyun to just one ship, a small test. If it worked, they could find another solution. If it didn't, they would stop immediately. Do-hyun sat in the command chair. It adjusted to his body like it was alive. Because it was. Nari placed the neural crown on his head. Mirai monitored his vital signs, her face tight with worry. Isol stood ready to cut the connection if anything went wrong. Ready? Nari asked. Do-hyun took a deep breath. Ready. She activated the system. At first there was nothing. Then pain. Sharp and bright, like lightning through his skull. Do-hyun gasped but didn't scream. The pain faded quickly, replaced by something else. Something impossible to describe. He could feel the ship. Not just sense it. He was the ship. Its hull was his skin. Its engines were his heart. Its weapons were his hands. The sensation was overwhelming and incredible. Then it spread. Like roots, growing through soil, Do-hyun's consciousness reached out. It touched the next ship. Then another. And another. He couldn't stop it. His mind flowed through the entire fleet like water, finding every crack and opening. One by one, the dead ships came alive. Their lights blazed, their engines hummed, their weapon systems charged. In the command center, Nari stood frozen in shock. Through the windows, they could see the entire fleet lighting up like stars being born. What's happening? Yuna shouted. Get him out! But Do-hyun couldn't hear her anymore. He was everywhere at once. He was the fleet. Hundreds of ships, thousands of systems, all connected through his mind. All alive again after sleeping for so long. When he finally opened his eyes, every screen in the command center showed the same thing. The Villani fleet was operational at full power for the first time in a generation. Amazing, Isol whispered, staring at the readings. The efficiency is beyond anything we've ever achieved. Nari turned to Do-hyun with wonder and fear in her eyes. How do you feel? Do-hyun tried to speak. His voice came out strange, like it was echoing through 1,000 speakers at once. I feel everything. Mirai checked his neural readings and went pale. Commander, we have a problem. He's not disconnecting. His consciousness has merged with the entire fleet network. What does that mean? Hyunwoo demanded, grabbing Nari's arm. Nari looked at Do-hyun, then at the blazing fleet outside, then back at the human who had just given life to her civilization's last hope. It means, she said slowly, that he's become the living core, the heart of our fleet. And I don't think we can separate him from it without killing both him and the ships. 3 days passed, and Do-hyun remained connected to the fleet. He sat, in the command chair, his eyes closed, but his mind was everywhere else. When he did open his eyes, they sometimes glowed faintly with the same light that pulsed through the Villani ships. Yuna tried everything. She brought in human doctors, technicians, and neural specialists. None of them could break the connection. Every time they tried to remove the neural crown, Do-hyun screamed in agony and the entire fleet began to shut down. Stop hurting him, Mirai pleaded after the third attempt. She had barely left Do-hyun's side since the connection happened. You're causing him pain. I'm trying to save my brother, Yuna snapped back, but there were tears in her eyes. She knew Mirai was right. Nari stood with her arms crossed, watching the humans argue. Finally, she spoke. The connection cannot be broken. He is the living core now. His neural pattern has woven itself into every ship's biological system. They are one organism now. Then fix it, Hyunwoo demanded. You did this to him. He volunteered, Isol said coldly. And he saved our entire civilization. The fleet operates at 3 times its previous efficiency. We can defend our worlds again. Our children will live because of him. What about his life? Yuna shouted. What about what he wants? Everyone turned to look at Do-hyun. He opened his eyes slowly. When he spoke, his voice sounded more normal than before, but there was something different about it, something vast. I can feel them, he said quietly. All the ships, 743 vessels, every sensor, every weapon, every engine, they're all part of me now. He looked at his hands, and I'm part of them. We'll find a way to separate you, Yuna promised, kneeling beside his chair. I don't think I want to be separated, Do-hyun said, and the words made Yuna freeze. Sister, I can feel the universe in ways no human ever has. I can sense solar winds. I can detect gravitational shifts light years away. I'm connected to something beautiful and terrible and vast. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Isol rushed to a control panel. Unknown vessels approaching, hostile configuration, 30 ships. The Krenth, Nari hissed. They must have detected the fleet reactivating. The Krenth were an enemy species that had been slowly conquering Vellani territory. With the fleet dead, the Vellani had been defenseless. Now the Krenth were coming to finish the job. We need to evacuate, Yuna said immediately. Get Do-hyun to our ship and run. No, Do-hyun said, standing up from the chair. He swayed slightly, and Mirai caught his arm to steady him. I can feel the Krenth ships. They're armed and coming fast. If they destroy this fleet, the Vellani lose everything. You can't fight them, Yuna insisted. You're not a soldier. I'm not, Do-hyun agreed. But the fleet is. He closed his eyes and reached out with his mind. Throughout the fleet, weapon systems came online. Shields activated. Ships moved into defensive formations with perfect coordination. Do-hyun wasn't commanding them consciously. It was more like his instincts were guiding them. The fleet responded to his thoughts like his own body responding to his will. The Krenth attacked without warning. Their ships fired massive energy weapons designed to tear through Vellani shields. But the Vellani fleet moved like a single creature. Ships dodged in perfect harmony. They returned fire with devastating precision. Do-hyun felt every impact, every near miss, every successful strike. It was overwhelming but also natural, like breathing. The battle lasted only 6 minutes. The Krenth ships retreated in chaos, half their force destroyed. Not a single Vellani ship was seriously damaged. When it ended, Do-hyun collapsed back into the command chair. His nose was bleeding. Mirai quickly wiped it away with a cloth, her face full of concern. Incredible, Isul whispered, staring at the battle data. I've never seen coordination like that. Not even from our best commanders in our glory days. Nari looked at Do-hyun with new understanding. You didn't just connect to the fleet. You became something new. A hybrid intelligence, human creativity and Vellani technology merged into one. News of the battle spread quickly. Within days, more Vellani ships arrived from across their territory. They were old vessels, dormant and dead like the others had been. They came seeking the miracle they had heard about. The human who could wake their ships. Do-hyun felt each new ship arrive before anyone else did. The fleet called to its sleeping brothers and sisters. One by one he connected to them, bringing them back to life. Each connection was easier than the last, but also stretched his consciousness thinner. The 3 Vellani commanders watched this happen with growing concern and fascination. They established a rotation system. Nari handled military operations and strategic decisions. Isil managed combat training and fleet readiness. Mirai took care of Do-hyun's physical body and monitored his mental state. You need to eat, Mirai would say gently, bringing him food. Often Do-hyun was so lost in the fleet's consciousness that he forgot his body needed things like food and water. You need to sleep, she insisted one night, when his eyes were bloodshot and his hands trembled. The fleet doesn't sleep, Do-hyun murmured. There are always threats to watch for, always systems to monitor. You're not just the fleet, Mirai said firmly. You're also Do-hyun. You're human. Your body has limits even if the ships don't. She helped him to a small room they had prepared for him. It was quiet there, away from the command center's constant activity. Mirai stayed with him, her hand in his, helping him remember that he was more than just a vast network of ships. Thank you, Do-hyun whispered before sleep took him. More Vellani arrived, not just ships but people, officers who wanted to serve on the reborn fleet, scientists who wanted to study the impossible connection. and others who came simply to see the human who had saved their civilization. They started calling him the soul of the fleet. Some treated him with reverence, like he was sacred. Others looked at him with pity, understanding what he had sacrificed. 2 young officers, Seohyun and Da-hee, competed for the honor of serving as his personal attendants. Through it all, Do-hyun felt himself changing. Sometimes he thought in human words and concepts. Other times his thoughts flowed in the strange patterns of the fleet's distributed consciousness. He was becoming less of an individual and more of a collective. One night he confessed this to Mireille during one of her care sessions. "I'm forgetting what it feels like to be just one person. Sometimes I don't remember if a memory is mine or from one of the ship's sensor logs." Mireille looked deeply troubled. She took his hands in hers. "Then we'll help you remember. Every day we'll talk about human things. Earth things. Your memories." "Who Do-hyun was before all this?" "Was?" Do-hyun asked sadly. "Not is." "Is," Mireille corrected quickly. "Who Do-hyun is. You're still you. You're just more now." But both of them knew the truth. The human named Do-hyun was slowly dissolving into something larger. And none of them knew how to stop it or if it even should be stopped. Then the message came from human space. Yuna had returned home and reported everything. Now Human Command was demanding answers. They wanted Do-hyun returned immediately. They gave the Villani 30 days to comply or face military action. The Villani High Council responded with their own message. They offered humanity a treaty, technology, protection, alliance, in exchange for one thing. They would keep Do-hyun permanently. The news hit Earth like a bomb. A human was being held by aliens. Some people called Do-hyun a hero. Others called him a traitor. Politicians argued in councils. Military leaders planned rescue operations. The media showed his face everywhere, telling different versions of the same story. In the Villani flagship, Do-hyun felt his world growing larger and stranger. The fleet now numbered over 1,000 ships. Each one was part of him. He could feel their hull temperatures, their fuel levels, their cruise locations. It was beautiful and terrifying. More Villani officers came to work with him. They treated him with a strange mix of respect and ownership. He was their greatest weapon, their hope, their future. But he was also a person who needed sleep and food in moments of peace. Nari established strict rules. "The living core is not a tool to be used carelessly," she announced to all commanders. "Anyone who disturbs him without proper reason will be removed from the fleet." Isil trained him in combat tactics through their neural link. She could connect directly to his mind through the fleet's network. When she did, information flowed between them like water. Battle strategies, weapon capabilities, defense formations. It all downloaded into his consciousness. "You're a natural," Isil admitted one day. She rarely gave compliments. "You understand warfare in ways that take us decades to learn." "I don't want to understand warfare," Do-hyun replied quietly. "I wanted to be a scientist. I wanted to help people, not fight wars." "Sometimes helping people means fighting," Isil said. "The Krenth won't stop. They'll come again. And next time they'll bring more ships." She was right. 2 weeks after the first battle, Krenth ships appeared again. This time they brought 300 vessels. They surrounded the Villani fleet's position and demanded surrender. Do-hyun felt them coming long before anyone else. The fleet's sensors were his senses. He could detect their energy signatures, their weapon charges, their communication signals. He knew they were coming to kill everyone aboard the Villani ships. "We can't win against 300 ships," one of the Villani captains said fearfully. "Yes, we can," Do-hyun said quietly. His voice echoed through every ship's communication system simultaneously. "Trust me. Trust the fleet." The battle began at dawn. Krenth ships attacked from all directions, trying to overwhelm the Villani through sheer numbers. But Do-hyun was no longer the frightened scientist who had stumbled into his first fight. He had learned. He had grown. He had become something new. The Villani fleet moved like a school of fish, like a flock of birds, like a single living creature with 1,000 bodies. Ships covered each other's weak points. Weapons fired in perfect coordination. Shields overlapped to protect damaged vessels. It was combat as art, as poetry, as a dance of light and energy across the darkness of space. The Krenth couldn't match it. Their ships fought as individuals. The Villani fleet fought as one. In 30 minutes, the battle was over. The Krenth retreated in disorder, leaving behind the wreckage of 60 destroyed ships. But victory had a cost. Do-hyun sat in his command chair, shaking violently. Blood ran from his nose and ears. The strain of controlling so many ships in combat had pushed his mind to its limits. He had felt every hit his ships took, every Krenth life that ended, every explosion, every death. Mirai held him as he cried. "I killed them," he whispered. "So many of them. I felt them die. You protected us," she said softly. "You saved thousands of Vellani lives." "Does that make it better?" he asked, looking at her with haunted eyes. She had no answer. The battle changed everything. News spread across the galaxy. The Vellani fleet was operational again, commanded by a human with abilities no one had ever seen. Other alien species began to pay attention. Some sent diplomats. Others sent spies. The Krenth sent threats. Human ships arrived in Vellani space. Not warships, but diplomatic vessels. Yuna came with them, now promoted to ambassador. She demanded to see her brother immediately. The meeting was tense. Yuna, Do-hyun, and the 3 Vellani commanders sat in a conference room aboard the flagship. Hyunwoo stood guard by the door, his hand near his weapon. "You look terrible," Yuna said bluntly, staring at her brother. Do-hyun had lost weight. His skin was pale. His eyes had dark circles under them. But there was also something else, a presence about him that hadn't been there before. Like he was only partially in the room with the rest of him spread across the stars. "I feel terrible," Do-hyun admitted, "and also amazing. And also more than one person. It's hard to explain." "Then come home," Yuna pleaded. "Let human scientists study the connection. Maybe they can break it safely." Nari interrupted. "Breaking the connection will kill him. His neural pathways have been permanently altered. He is no longer fully human in biology. The fleet is part of him now at a cellular level." "You did this to him," Yuna accused. "He volunteered," Isol replied sharply. "He didn't know what would happen," Hyunwoo added. "Neither did we," Mirai said quietly. She looked at Do-hyun with genuine sorrow. "If we could undo it without harming him, we would. But we can't." Do-hyun raised his hand and everyone fell silent. When he spoke, his voice carried weight. "I made a choice. I knew the risks. Maybe not all of them, but I knew enough. These people needed help. Their entire civilization was dying. I couldn't walk away from that." "So you'll stay here forever?" Yuna asked, her voice breaking. "You'll never come home?" "This is home now," Do-hyun said simply. "I'm part of something bigger than myself. I have purpose here. Power here. On Earth, I was just another technician in a lab. Here, I protect millions of lives. I matter." "You always mattered," Yuna said through tears, "but did I?" Do-hyun challenged gently. "Really, or was I just existing? Here, I'm truly alive." The meeting ended with no resolution. Yuna left in tears. Human Command gave the Vellani an ultimatum. Return Do-hyun in 2 weeks or face military action. The Vellani refused. As tensions rose, young Vellani like Seo-hyun and Da-hee competed for positions close to Do-hyun. They saw him as a living legend, not understanding the burden he carried. They brought him gifts and asked him questions about Earth, treating him like royalty. "They don't understand," Do-hyun told Mirai one night. "They see the power but not the cost. I can't remember what my favorite food used to be. I can't remember the last time I dreamed a human dream instead of fleet calculations. I'm losing pieces of myself every day." Mirai did something unexpected. She connected her mind to his through the fleet network. Then she began sharing memories. Not tactical data or ship specifications, but personal memories. She showed him sunsets on the Vellani homeworld, the taste of their food, the sound of rain on alien flowers. She showed him beauty and life and emotion. Do-hyun felt tears on his face for the first time in weeks. "Thank you," he whispered. "You gave us life," Mirai said. "The least I can do is help you remember yours." But time was running out. Human and Vellani fleets began gathering at the border. War was coming. And in the center of it all was one man who had become 1,000 ships, caught between 2 worlds and belonging fully to neither. Hyunwoo came in the night, like a ghost. He had always been good at sneaking through places he shouldn't be. Now he used those skills to infiltrate the Vellani flagship with a team of 5 other human special forces soldiers. They moved through the corridors silently, avoiding patrols. Hyunwoo had studied the ship's layout for weeks. He knew where Do-hyun would be. In the command center. Always in the command center, connected to his fleet, barely sleeping, barely human anymore. but Do-hyun knew they were coming. He felt their ship dock, felt their footsteps through the hull's sensors. The fleet was his body now, and they were moving through it like antibodies detecting an infection. When Hyunwoo burst into the command center with his team, weapons ready, he found Do-hyun sitting calmly in his chair. Alone. No guards, just his friend looking tired and strange and impossibly sad. "I knew you'd come," Do-hyun said quietly. "We're getting you out of here," Hyunwoo said, moving forward. "We're taking you home." "Stop," Do-hyun commanded, and Hyunwoo froze. Not because of the word, but because of how it was said. With the voice of someone who had commanded 1,000 ships in battle, with authority that came from being something more than human. "You don't understand what you're doing," Do-hyun continued. "Sit down, please, let me show you." Hyunwoo hesitated, then signaled his team to lower their weapons. He sat across from his friend. "Show me what?" Do-hyun reached out and touched Hyunwoo's hand. The connection was instant and overwhelming. Through the fleet's neural network, Do-hyun opened a channel and let Hyunwoo feel what he felt. Hyunwoo gasped as his consciousness expanded. Suddenly, he wasn't in his body anymore. He was everywhere, in 1,000 ships, monitoring 1,000,000 systems, feeling the lives of millions of Vellani depending on him. The weight of it was crushing, beautiful, terrible, impossible. The connection lasted only seconds, but when it broke, Hyunwoo fell to his knees, gasping. How can you? "I can't stop," Do-hyun said simply. "If you disconnect me by force, the fleet dies. And the fleet is the only thing keeping the Vellani civilization alive. Their enemies will destroy them within months without it." "What about you?" Hyunwoo asked, looking up at his friend. "What happens to you?" "If the disconnection is sudden and forced, I'll probably die," Do-hyun said calmly, like he was discussing the weather. "My brain has been rewired at a fundamental level. The fleet's neural network has become part of how my mind functions. Cutting it away would be like removing half my brain." "Then we'll find another way," Hyunwoo insisted. "Human scientists, better technology, something?" "There is no other way," a voice said from the doorway. Nari entered with Isul and Mirai behind her. They had known about the rescue attempt, had let it happen. "We've tried everything. The connection is permanent." Isul stepped forward, her hand on her weapon. "But we won't stop you from trying. If Do-hyun wants to leave, we won't prevent it. Even if it means our civilization's end." "You're lying," one of Hyunwoo's soldiers said. "You need him. You'd never let him go." "We need him," Nari agreed. "But we're not monsters. If he truly wants freedom more than purpose, he can have it. We'll die, but he'll be free." Everyone looked at Do-hyun. The choice was his. "I want to stay," Do-hyun said quietly. "This is where I belong now." "They've brainwashed you," Hyunwoo protested. "They've given me purpose," Do-hyun corrected. "On Earth, I was nobody special. Here, I save lives every day. I protect an entire civilization. Do you know how many people are alive right now because of what I did? Because of what I am?" He stood up and the fleet responded. Every screen in the command center lit up, showing ship after ship in perfect formation. "I'm not their prisoner. I'm their guardian, and I choose this." Hyunwoo looked at his friend for a long moment, then slowly nodded. "Then I'll tell them. I'll tell Earth you chose this." "Thank you," Do-hyun said. "Now you should go." "The Krenth are gathering their forces. Something big is coming." Hyunwoo and his team left. As they departed, Nari approached Do-hyun. "You really would have gone with them if you wanted to?" "Yes," Do-hyun said. "That's why I stayed. It has to be my choice. Not yours. Not theirs, mine." But there was no time to dwell on the moment. The fleet's sensors detected a massive energy signature at the edge of Vellani space. Isul pulled up the data and her face went pale. 10,000 ships, she whispered. The Krenth have brought 10,000 ships. It was their entire military force. Every vessel they had. This wasn't a raid or a test. This was total war. They were coming to annihilate the Vellani once and for all. "Can we win?" Nari asked, looking at Do-hyun. "I don't know," Do-hyun admitted. "We have 2,000 ships. They have 10,000. The numbers are against us. But you're the greatest tactical commander the Vellani have ever had," Mirai said. "If anyone can find a way." Do-hyun closed his eyes and reached out with his mind. He felt every ship in his fleet, every weapon, every shield generator, every brave Vellani crew member preparing for battle. He also felt the Krenth approaching like a storm of hatred and destruction. "I can try," he said, "but this will push me past my limits." The mental strain of coordinating 2,000 ships against 10,000 might kill you, Nari finished. She looked at Isol and Mirai. We need to make a decision. All of us. The three commanders moved away from Do-hyun and spoke in low voices. After several minutes, they returned. Nari spoke for all of them. If you begin to break during the battle, we will disconnect you. Even if it means the fleet dies. Even if it means our civilization falls, we won't sacrifice you completely. That's suicide for everyone, Do-hyun protested. Perhaps, Mirai said, tears in her eyes. But we won't become monsters who destroy others to save ourselves. If the cost of our survival is your death or your complete loss of humanity, then we don't deserve to survive. Do-hyun felt something warm in his chest, something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Not hope for victory, but hope that maybe, just maybe, he mattered as more than a weapon to these people. Thank you, he said softly. Isol checked her weapons. The Krenth will be here in 12 hours. We should prepare. We should, Do-hyun agreed. He looked at the three Vellani women who had become something like friends, something like family. Whatever happens in the battle tomorrow, I want you to know I don't regret any of this. We do, Nari said quietly. We regret what we've done to you. Even if you don't. The fleet moved into defensive positions. Across Vellani space, civilians evacuated to bunkers. Ships formed up in formations Do-hyun designed specifically for this battle. And in the command center, one human prepared to face 10,000 enemy ships while 3 alien women stood ready to save him, even if it meant losing everything. The Krenth armada arrived like a swarm of locusts. 10,000 ships blocked out the stars, their weapons charged with enough power to crack planets. They came with one message: surrender or die. Do-hyun sat in his command chair and felt the weight of 2,000 ships under his control. It wasn't enough. Not against these numbers. But he had a plan. A desperate, dangerous plan that would either save the Vellani or destroy him completely. Begin, he commanded. The Vellani fleet scattered, not in retreat, but in a complex pattern Do-hyun had spent hours designing. The ships moved through the Krenth formation like dancers through a crowd. They fired, struck, and moved on before the enemy could respond effectively. It was chaos controlled by a single mind, but the Krenth had numbers. For every ship Do-hyun destroyed, 3 more took its place. The battle stretched on for hours. Do-hyun felt every hit his ships took, every crew member who died, every system that failed. The pain was enormous, but he pushed through it. In the command center, Mirai monitored Do-hyun's vital signs with growing alarm. His heart rate was dangerously high. His brain activity showed patterns that shouldn't be possible. Blood ran from his nose, but he didn't seem to notice. He's breaking, she said to Nari. We need to stop this. Not yet, Do-hyun gasped, overhearing her. I found something. In their ships. Something wrong. He pushed deeper with his consciousness, reaching beyond his own fleet. It was dangerous trying to sense enemy ships, but Do-hyun had learned to use the fleet's sensors in ways the Vellani never had. He felt the Krenth vessels, their power signatures, their crew distributions, and he felt something else. Pain. The Krenth ships were in pain. Their crews were in pain. It was a constant scream beneath everything, a torture that never ended. They're not in control, Do-hyun realized aloud. Something is controlling them. Parasites. Neural parasites in their brains forcing them to fight. Isol checked the data from captured Krenth vessels in previous battles. He's right. We found strange organisms in their neural tissue but thought they were natural. But if they're parasitic, then the Krenth are victims too, Nari finished. She looked at Do-hyun. What do you need? Time, Do-hyun said. And trust. He changed tactics completely. Instead of fighting, the Vellani fleet began broadcasting on all frequencies. Not weapons fire, but something else, a signal, a frequency that Do-hyun had isolated from his own neural connection to the fleet, a frequency that disrupted the parasite's control. The Krenth fleet faltered. Ships stopped firing. Some began to drift. Others started attacking each other as the parasite's control weakened, and the true Krenth hosts briefly regained consciousness. But the parasites fought back. They pushed harder on their hosts, trying to maintain control. Krenth crew members began dying from the strain. Do-hyun could feel it happening. Thousands of them. Their minds breaking under the battle between parasite and host. I can save them, Do-hyun said, but I have to connect to their ships. I have to link with them like I did with the Vellani fleet. That will kill you, Mirai said firmly. Your mind can't handle 2,000 ships. You certainly can't handle 12,000. I have to try, Do-hyun insisted. His eyes were wild now, barely focused. Blood covered his face. I can feel them dying. I can't just watch. Do-hyun, no, Nari commanded. I'm ordering you to stop. This is suicide. But Do-hyun wasn't listening anymore. He reached out with everything he had. His consciousness expanded beyond the Vellani fleet, touching the Krenth ships. The connection was agonizing. These ships weren't designed for his mind. They resisted him, but he pushed harder, forcing his way in. He found the parasites, alien entities that had infected the Krenth species centuries ago, slowly taking control of their civilization. And he found the Krenth themselves, trapped and screaming inside their own minds. With the last of his strength, Do-hyun sent a pulse through both fleets. A neural shock designed to kill the parasites without killing the hosts. It was based on his own connection to the Vellani ships, but reversed and amplified. The effect was immediate. Across the Krenth fleet, parasites died by the billions. Ships went dark as their crews collapsed, suddenly free but unconscious from the trauma. The battle stopped. The war ended. Not with destruction, but with liberation. And Do-hyun collapsed. He didn't wake up for 3 days. When he finally opened his eyes, he found Mirai sitting beside him, holding his hand. Nari and Isol stood nearby. They all looked exhausted and worried. How many? Do-hyun asked, his voice barely a whisper. 43 Vellani ships destroyed, Nari reported. 8,000 crew members dead. But we saved millions. The Krenth are free. They've sued for peace and offered their deepest apologies. And me? Do-hyun asked. You're alive, Mirai said, squeezing his hand. But something happened when you connected to all those ships. Your neural pattern is too distributed now. Too stretched. You're having trouble maintaining a single consciousness. Do-hyun nodded slowly. He could feel it. His mind was scattered across too many points. He was fragments instead of a whole. So I'm dying after all. Just slowly. No, a new voice said. A Vellani woman entered the room. She was older, with gray in her hair and kind eyes. I'm Ji-won. I've been working on a solution. She explained her plan. She had developed a way to share the burden of the fleet's connection. Multiple Vellani could link with Do-hyun, creating a collective consciousness. They would help carry the weight, anchor his mind, keep him from fragmenting completely. But there's a cost, Ji-won warned. The volunteers who link with you will never be fully separate again. They'll always be part of the collective, part of you, and you'll be part of them. I'll do it, Mirai said immediately. As will I, Nari added. And I, Isul agreed. Ji-won nodded. I'll need more, at least 50 volunteers to properly distribute the load. Within hours, she had 200 volunteers, Vellani from every ship, every position. They lined up, ready to link their minds with Do-hyun's to become part of something new. The process took days. One by one, the volunteers connected. Do-hyun felt each new presence in his mind. Mirai was warm and gentle. Nari was strong and protective. Isul was fierce and loyal. The others brought their own qualities, their own strengths. When it was complete, Do-hyun wasn't alone anymore. He was part of a collective consciousness. The fleet soul, they called it. 53 minds linked together with Do-hyun at the center, guiding and coordinating them. It wasn't what he had planned. It wasn't what anyone had planned. But it was beautiful in its own way. Human ships returned to Vellani space. Yuna came to see her brother one last time. She found him surrounded by his collective, dozens of Vellani who were now part of him and he was part of them. Are you happy? She asked, tears in her eyes. Do-hyun smiled. It was his smile, but also carried the warmth of 53 souls behind it. I'm not alone anymore. I'm not losing myself. I'm finding a bigger self. Does that make sense? No, Yuna admitted. But I can see that you're at peace. That's enough. They talked for hours. About Earth, about memories, about the future. When Yuna finally left, she carried a message of alliance between humanity and the Vellani, a bridge between two civilizations built on the sacrifice and transformation of one man. Months passed. The Vellani civilization flourished. The Krenth became allies, grateful for their freedom. Trade routes opened. Cultural exchanges began, and at the heart of it all was Do-hyun and his collective, the fleet soul, part human, part Vellani, part ship, part consciousness, all dedicated to protecting the peace they had fought so hard to achieve. Sometimes, late in the night cycle, Do-hyun would dream. He dreamed of Earth with his human mind. He dreamed of Vellani worlds with his collective consciousness. He dreamed of the stars with his fleet senses. And in those dreams he was whole. He was the boy who had wanted to help people. He was the man who had given everything to save a civilization. He was the living core who had become so much more. He was Do-hyun. He was the fleet. He was both and neither in something entirely new, and he was finally truly home.